Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Enlightening Your Way. I'm your host, Nancy Lombardo. We are airing live this evening on the Lilydale Assembly official Facebook page and YouTube channel. I'm a year-round resident here in Lilydale and the president of the Church Living Spirit, which is an independent spiritualist church here in Lilydale. I'm a military veteran, retired police detective, fitness and yoga instructor, and wellness is my passion. This show is a combination of my many life experiences that feature various topics and guests to help enrich one's mind, body, and soul on your pathway to healthy living. My Facebook page is Wellness with Nancy Lombardo, where my motto is protecting and serving your well-being. And I'm so happy to introduce our guest for this evening, Dr. Reverend Patricia Bell. Dr. Patricia Bell is regarded as one of the world's most gifted clairvoyants, astrologers, and speaker. With a PhD from the International College of Spiritual Science in Montreal, Patricia is a registered medium and a leaseholder here in Lilydale, as well as being a spiritualist minister. Patricia is the author of the published book Timeless Love, A Guide to Healing Grief and Learning to Live Again. And she has been on numerous radio and television shows and continues to touch and contribute to the world's spiritual well-being with her dedication to her work and clientele. And you can find everything else about her at patriciabell.net. Welcome, Patricia.
Thank you, Nancy. What a pleasure it is to be here.
Thank you so much. And I told you I just like to just have a conversation, and you don't even have to know the questions I got lined up for you. So let's go. Because
Okay.
I've been working with you. You're one of our ministers, but I got to thinking, I just don't know a whole lot about your backstory. I don't know a whole lot about you. So my first question is, can you tell us, in regard to being a medium, how and where your talent all began?
Well, I was born into a family of mediums. My grandfather was police chief inspector of New York City. And if you ever wanted to meet a man who knew intuitively and figure out what was going on, it was him. He spoke 11 different languages. He was raised in Catholicism. In fact, his father built the first Slovak American Catholic Church in the United States and sent him to yeshiva, where he learned how to read and write and speak Hebrew as well as Yiddish. This man, my grandfather, God bless him, would have me sit on his knee and teach me. And that's where it began. But even before that, when I was a little small, I thought the world was too noisy. So I would go into my closet in my room and talk to my friends. So we hear about mediums doing closet work to develop. Well, I was there when I was little. And my mother also had a gift, but she was not trained. And that's what made my mind up, because she had done an automatic writing event when she was like 27. She was at some party, and there was somebody there that said they wanted to have a battery for a spirit to come through. And she was very naive. And they used her as a battery. And this man's voice came through her and said all kinds of things about his wife that was there. It scared my grandmother so much. Hearing my mother speak like a man, she turned around and slapped her across the face. No, not something to do, but it was there. It was part of the genetic makeup.
I love that story about your grandfather. I love that. I always say a lot of police officers are psychic and very intuitive. Don't know so much about the mediumship, but definitely psychic and intuitive for
Well,
sure.
they can feel a room.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when we talk about mediumship, there's all kinds of aspects of it. One thing is the direct communication, but the other thing is the presence.
Mm-hmm.
think about an officer that walks in the room and just feels the presence of a spirit there.
Right.
They know somebody died there. They may
Yeah.
not see the body, but there is that mediumship that they can feel that presence. And more than likely, these clues are very subtle.
Yes.
Very subtle. And if you're not especially trained to be a medium, but you have that gift, you're picking up stuff that you just write off. Good judgment there, kind of stuff
Right.
like
Yeah, yeah, totally. What do you mean that he put you on his lap and was teaching you? What was he trying to teach you?
Oh, about everything, to question, to be curious, to understand the world. And that, my grandparents came directly from Slovakia. I'm second generation American. And, there was, when you're police chief of New York City, you, at that time, right? We're talking in the 1800s, you know the diversity there of people in Manhattan at that time coming through Ellis Island, and to understand what people were made of. And my grandfather had a very strong spiritual compass in which he shared with me. And, there was a lot of, people, Slovakia, the Carpathian Mountains, remember he studied Judaism. And, the Baal Shem Tov was part of the Carpathian Mountains. And he was known for being able to find soulmates and talk to spirit and things like that. So my grandfather knew these different aspects.
I love that. Yeah, I'm third generation Italy, of course, from my great grandparents coming here on Ellis Island. So that's fascinating. So, what religion were you raised in?
Catholicism.
Okay.
In fact, I went to Catholic nun school, and when I was 13, I had told my mother and father that I wanted to be a nun and that I wanted to join the Daughters of St. Paul, which was a teaching writing group. And my beloved sister, Mary Alban, said to me, Patricia, these walls will not allow you to do what God wants you to do.
Aw.
And she's the one that convinced me. Now, I drove this woman crazy because when I received my communion at 8 years old, I was convinced. I was like, okay, I want to feel God, because I knew that I could feel God. And I said, I want to feel God. And I asked the nuns, okay, when can I feel God again? Oh, I was relentless. And you have no idea. So they finally sent me to Sister Mary Anastasia, who said to me, oh, you can feel God when you're confirmed. And I said, fine, I want to be confirmed. Now I'm 8 years old, right? So I said, come on, sister, when can I be confirmed? And she's looking at this 8-year-old child being relentless. And she finally gave up. She says, you have to memorize all these prayers. You have to go to Mass and Communion. You have to do these novenas, da, da, da. I was confirmed at age 10.
Oh, my goodness. See, I was raised Catholic, so I totally get that.
Yeah. But you know what the funny part about it is standing in the church being confirmed, and I was tall for my age, even at 10, the wearing robes, I just knew in my heart I was going to be a part of clergy. I knew it. And that's why I thought I was going to become a nun. But obviously, I'm more than pleased to be a spiritualist.
I could see you being a big handful to those nuns for sure.
Oh, yeah.
You are a big personality, and you probably were a big personality then.
Yes.
So how did you come to discover spiritualism?
Oh, well, gosh. The strong part was when my husband died, I was 22 years old. And I could not believe that love could die. I couldn't believe it. I would have dreams of him. Every time I dreamt of him, my mother-in-law was sick. I got to the point that every time he showed up in a dream, I just went ahead and called my mother-in-law. And I said, "Okay, Ma, what's going on?" And it was my pursuit. I even went to, after he died. Oh, when my husband died, he was 27, I was 22. I went to Father Gunther, who had married us. That poor priest, that poor priest. I wailed. And he just was there. He didn't know how to console me, and he did not know how to tell me where he went,
Oh,
except he's in heaven. It's like, no. I just, something inside my soul couldn't accept that. I mean, so I decided to take that journey. And the only place that answered that question was spiritualism.
how did you know that? Did you research it?
Oh, yes, of course. I went to, I studied Kabbalah. I studied all kinds of things, but um, I found spiritualism. And you have to remember, Florida has a spiritualist camp, Nancy.
Yes, they do. Yeah.
And, if you're researching religions because you want to find out where love goes, this is why I wrote my book, Timeless Love, for people to know that love never dies. But it's different for when we lose certain people in our life. It affects us differently.
Was
But,
your military?
pardon?
Was he military?
My husband was in the Vietnam conflict.
Yes, yeah.
And I have to say this, I just hope that we evolve to a place where there is no need for that type of event. Um, I worked at USOs afterwards for the Afghan war, all kinds of places. And unfortunately, I was in Fort Lauderdale, and we were in a place where we were supporting the soldiers and their families. And this mother saw her son killed on television.
Oh,
I mean, it is beyond belief. But, all of these things touch our hearts in such a way, that is unbelievable. Unbelievable. And I just don't, I just hope that we do evolve spiritually, that we don't have to do that. But obviously, we're not there yet.
I have the utmost respect for Vietnam, that whole era of soldiers for sure, and the utmost respect for those still serving. So appreciate him and what he did for sure.
Well, thank you. My father was in the military too, and my grandfather served, obviously, as a police officer for a long time. But it's about that service.
Yeah,
And, nobody does that kind of service if they don't love.
you're exactly right about that. You're exactly, yeah,
Please. And they do it for love of country, yes, but they do it for the love of family and people and everything.
right.
It's not just country. It is our country, but it makes up of the people there.
I just
And
want to
thank you for your service too. I understand,
say, you
it's
totally get it.
it's not a cakewalk to be able to serve, to say the least.
But it's an honor for sure. An
It
honor.
is.
I just want to say hi to everybody. They're all saying hi to us. So now I could see your comments. So thank you all for joining us this evening. So how did you find out about Lilydale?
Well, I had John White is my dearest friend, and I had become a spiritualist minister. We had the organization of Florida Spiritualist Ministers. I had my own church, the South Florida First Spiritualist Church of South Florida.
I don't think I knew that.
Yes, and it was housed in Hollywood, Florida. And I invited Tom and Ellie to come, and Tom was there to help train healers in the church, one of which was my grandson Bailey, who was 5 years old, and other people. And John White came, and he served. And it was, he always tried to convince me, when are you coming to Lilydale? When are you coming to Lilydale? Well, I had a couple other things, because even though I did not serve in the military, I served in other ways. I was a citizen ambassador for the United States of America. And we had a joke, and I hope it doesn't offend. He said, the military may shoot you to death, but the ambassadors will talk you to death.
Right.
You know, and so, and I spent 30 years of my life in American politics. In fact, my full title would be the Honorable Reverend Doctor, because I have been an elected official. But yeah, I know most people never know. But this is why when I came to Lilydale, it's to serve and be kind. I've done the other and got the t-shirt. And so I just wanted to. So I basically raised my children, and I had my church, and but I had to take care of my parents, and my mother passed, and then there was care for my father. And after my father passed, oh, I came back to my apartment, and I sat there feeling like an orphan.
Mm-hmm.
I sat down and I said to Spirit, where do I belong? 4 hours later, John White called me on the phone and said, are you ready to come to Lilydale now?
Oh, wow.
Yep. And so I did. And when I drove around the lake on Dale Drive, I had been dreaming that drive ever since I was 8 years old.
Are you
So,
serious? Wow.
yeah. So when I drove it, it's like, oh my gosh, I know this. It was really amazing. So it's kind of hard. I have to throw in a story, because when you become a spiritualist, I had Bailey in Lilydale with me when I bought the house. I think he was 3 years old, 4 years old. And, I had him sleeping in the bed with me, and he woke up and he goes, Grandma, where's the marching bands? And I said, what? He goes, yeah, the last time I was here, we had marching bands. And as you well know, in the 1800s in Lilydale, they did have marching bands.
Oh, wow. That's crazy.
So I don't know it's in your heart, I think, Nancy. What makes us a spiritualist? That inner knowing, that excitement of knowing that we are constantly connected to those we love. The hope.
So
Know.
when you got to Lilydale, when did you decide you were going to buy a house here?
Oh no! The moment I drove in the door.
Yeah.
Oh no! The first thing I said to John, when can I get a house? First thing, and John, we went through every house. Of course, I became a member of the assembly. The house that Sandy Taylor owns. I wanted that house. The Fowlers at that time owned it, but they wouldn't sell it. And so I just was in Lilydale continually. And Adelphi was there. And some of the students from Adelphi gave me a reading. The one said to me, "Your father is going to help you in spirit the way he couldn't in the living."
Huh.
So my friend Myrna decided to come visit me. And she was a real estate broker in New York City. She went through all of Lilydale like crazy. And she picked the house that I am in now. And I go, "Myrna, are you crazy? That house is 5,500, maybe 6,000 square feet."
It's huge. Yeah.
She goes, "This is the house." And I said, "Right." And so Jim Barnum was standing there, and I put my hand on his shoulder and I said, "I know that it's rented, but I'll work with you whichever way you want." And I drove Myrna to the airport. I came back, and John White's waving me down, going, "They want to sell you the house." And so John and I presented the offer to Jim Barnum, and I went back to Lilydale to secure the funds. I got the money for my house in Lilydale in 4 days.
Wow.
James Buchanan owned the house. James Barnett sold the house. And James Bell, I believed, helped me get that money.
And how
So,
long have you owned this house now?
ooh, it's going to be 30 years almost.
Oh my gosh, are you serious? I didn't know
Yeah.
that long. Wow. I mean, I love your house. It's just stunning. It's statuesque. It sits up on that hill. It catches your eye. I like the lines of it. I just love your house.
It was one of the first homes owned by a woman in Lilydale.
Oh, that's interesting. I like that.
Mm. And her name is Ruth Schultz. And obviously, this was part of the movement. And she had to have some help to be able to buy it, I'm sure, in order to get the paperwork. But her name was on the deed in 1883.
Has it always been yellow?
No, when I bought it, it was barnyard red.
Ah,
And before that, I believe it was green. I made it yellow because I thought it was a welcoming color,
mhm.
and that to me, Lilydale was going to be a happy place. And the children in the children's program call it the birthday cake house because of the layers, which it does look like. And you know
That's the first time I've heard that.
yeah, it's
Oh,
a very it's really interesting because spirit was all around. And I met Billy Turner, the former medium here in Lilydale. And how did I meet him? I would wake up in the morning wanting a gin and tonic. And it's like, I don't drink. Okay. I don't, and I might have a glass of wine, but gin and tonic. So I'm down at the post office, and there's Peggy Johnson, and I'm talking to Peggy, and Peggy says, "Oh, that's Billy Turner's drink of choice. Don't worry about it. He's coming to visit you." So the house has energy, but I do know as a medium that we have boundaries. And when I'm in my chair, when I'm reading, that's fine. But you don't disturb my sleep.
that's great. That is great. Well, I want to change directions a tad and talk a little bit about your astrology. What was it about astrology that originally captured your interest?
It was a knowing. It's like sometimes you just know. This is why I, on Instagram, I use the tag Star Whisperers, because we're stardust. There's a percentage of us, even Carl Sagan said that we are made up of stardust. And it was this fascination with the stars that took me to the level of studying astrology. And I have been an astrologer for over 50 years. I'm a
Wow.
certified professional astrologer, and, you know, which means that I have passed the ethics courses to be a professional astrologer. And it's been such an interesting journey to be with fellow astrologers, because even if you study astrology, all these new aspects coming up, you may have not encountered them. But this is why I recommend a vintage astrologer, as I call myself, because we have felt some of these aspects. I know what Pluto is like, squaring your Mars, things like that, because I have felt it.
Mhm.
And if somebody can feel what's going on in their chart, it can help them work whatever it is that they're going through.
What did you originally mean by, you said it was a knowing that there was more, that there was something out there? What was the knowing?
That we're connected, that we were connected. Well, it's easy to know that we're connected to the sun and the moon by the tides and things like that. But it was a knowing that there was this connection. Now, was that part of my sitting in the closet as a little kid having um, these spiritualist type of moments? More than likely. But it was a knowing that, you know, I don't know that you can be a spiritualist without knowing that there is a connection,
Yeah,
and how expansive it can be.
that's a good word for sure. So how do you feel astrology can help people?
Well, first of all, spirits don't wear watches. And most people, they want to know when, or they want to know what is happening, uh, because we can see the astrology in our day-to-day lives. It's like a weather report.
Mhm.
So if an astrology aspect is hitting your chart really hard, you know how to be prepared for it. Just like if, well, not exactly like your snowstorm, but you can tell. I mean, we all knew that in 2020, something big was happening. Now, that could have been like this snowstorm, but even grander. And then we had COVID. There was an aspect, there was even an asteroid over Wuhan that was very visible. And look how COVID changed our life. And
Mhm.
we knew that was going to happen. We didn't know exactly where, we didn't know exactly when, but we did know that something big was going to happen. And we're not done with that, Nancy. We're walking into a world that we've never seen before. And that's why it's important to understand who you are, not only astrologically, because, each sign, each has a vibration, a frequency that you can look at. In fact, it's interesting. Dr. Jeffrey Thompson, he worked with NASA and he recorded the sounds of Uranus.
Hmm.
So planets have sounds, plants have sounds, we have sounds. And I know you're involved in sound healing. This is one of the most exciting things for us to understand, because as we're going to be making a lot of changes, we need to look internally. And the astrology chart can say, hey, this would be an easier way to be prepared. This would be, there's a lot of information there, which is absolutely amazing. And, it's so funny how family charts can repeat themselves, and where you live has an effect on you, as you can feel that as where I live here in Florida is very different than when I live in Lilydale.
Yeah, sure. So, why do you feel this year specifically there's been so many major astrological events? The eclipse, I mean, we've had so many big things that we're not going to see again in a very long time.
I think they were the messengers of preparing us to change. The eclipse, especially in Buffalo and Lilydale, it was right on this point in Aries, which said, know your identity, to thine own self be true. But right in opposition was the asteroid of Urania. And Urania is the muse as well as asteroid of astrology and astronomy. But one of her gifts is unconditional love. And so if we know how to give ourselves unconditional love, the circumstances around us or people around us don't necessarily have to hurt us. We can be able to say, okay, what's their astrology doing? What's the aspect? Like there's some people that are very moody. You can look at their chart and you go, oh, that's who they are. They're going to be moody. And then there's others who aren't. It's just a fascination. Now, as far as the aspects, the aurora borealis coming, the eclipses, and now we've just Mercury retrograde, Mars retrograde, Venus retrograde, and then Mercury retrograde, all coming in the next 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
It's saying you're going to learn what it is you want, who you are, and people are going through changes. People are moving, people are changing careers, people are looking at the world very differently. But we're also seeing it throughout the globe that things are changing. And some of it is it's scary because we don't like change that much.
No, change is hard. People are resistant to it for sure. So how do you combine astrology and mediumship, or do you keep it separate?
I only do mediumship when I'm in Lilydale and I read for my clients. When somebody wants astrology, yes, I can do that for them outside of Lilydale. But, it's a very, how do I put this? When you do mediumship, your brain waves have to go from beta to alpha to theta. You're in a theta state. And Dr. Oz had Dr. Amen on his show, and they did the brainwaves on Teresa Caputo that proved what I just said is correct. Now, astrology doesn't require you to be in theta. So it's a very different type. You have to use your conscious thoughts and how you've studied too. But when I do my blurbs on Tuesday, I have people meditate on on the transiting planetary conditions. Like Mars is retrograde in Leo, and we just did an entire segment on what is it that Mars in Leo personally is addressing to you. Because when a planet goes retrograde, it's coming inside. And this is why I tell people, please do not be scared. Because when it's a retrograde, it's a whisper.
Hmm.
This is the inside messages. But so many of us are so excited about the outside world talking to us that we forget about our inside dialect, which is so much more important.
Well, that's a great answer and a great explanation of that, because sometimes I think when people see a medium and an astrologer, they might get a little confused by it all, but I love the way you explained it. Makes perfect sense to me. So, I don't know if you know this, but tonight at 7 o'clock, which was a bit ago, they had a worldwide candle lighting day in remembrance of children and individuals that have left this world too soon. A very dear friend of mine lost a daughter, and she had put that she was lighting a candle. So I want you to know that I lit a candle for you and your
Thank
son, Jimmy, and we will keep your husband in honor also, because I know that was very difficult for you. And I'd like to know if you can tell people what it is to deal with this kind of grief.
First of all, I was very blessed that Father Gunther listened to me when my husband died. Poor man, but he was kind and he was patient. There's a lot of people that would tell you what to do. The thing I say, be kind and gentle to yourself, because this is something that has, you're separated and from someone you love. And what we don't realize is each person that we love is connected to us. That's why I wrote my book, Timeless Love. Like when you lose a sibling, it affects you personally in a different way than when you lose a mother or a father or a husband or a pet. But the worst one, really, and I say this, and I have apologized to people who have lost children, because before I lost my son, I had no idea how it felt. And again, kind, gentle. If you are having a heartache and your heart hurts, I strongly recommend acupuncture. Dr. Oz did as well, and he was a cardiologist and brought his acupuncturist on his show, talking about how the muscles in the heart contract to try to protect you. And by having acupuncture, you can release the body and meridians. I know this personally because I studied acupuncture from the Traditional School of Chinese Medicine in Miami, Florida. And I understand that working with an acupuncturist in regards to grief is an amazing gift to yourself, because there's trauma and there's grief, and it can affect you in a way that you have no idea, because each person's body is different. It's not like one size fits all. And I recommend it because once you get yourself vibrationally in alignment, it allows an opportunity for them to come to be with you. Now, when my father passed, I took one of his sweaters and I would sit in a chair wearing the sweater, and it felt as though it would hug me. And it did, and he hugged me, and he was there. But there, according to BeliefNet, close to over 89% of people believe in life after death, and there is a connection. But the key is, I did something when my son died that I shouldn't have done. I continued to work at a feverish pace. And then 6 months later, I had a heart attack. And think about it, that child is underneath your heart. And they have found biologically that mothers still have the genes of their children in their head, in their body, and they feel them. But, we still have a genetic connection to our siblings too, and a genetic connection to our mother and father. And so this is a time that it's emotional, it's physical. And most people say, oh, you're not psychologically deranged because you're grieving. You are going through a most transformative time of your life. And it's really very important. And the thing is, the children's program to me was very important because children don't always or aren't always put in a position where they are allowed to grieve.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a child. They'll get over it. What do they know?
I
They
don't
know
think
a
I
lot.
understand grief.
They know a lot. And it's amazing. It's truly amazing. And as spiritualists, this is why, yes, I champion children, very much so, because they need to get through life understanding grief. Yes, they may have lost a pet, but it's not the same thing. But most children initially learn about death through the loss of grandparents or elders. And so if you see grandma or grandpa going through a really horrific death, that's going to have an effect on you, or any horrific death. So it's be kind, be gentle. Please allow yourself to be embraced by those who have an understanding of compassion, and that, as you have said this morning, that know how to listen.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, this is for your son.
Thank you.
And so one of our listeners today said she had lost her dog, Shelly. We're sorry. That's very painful also. Very painful.
Well, yeah, there are intimate companions.
Yeah, totally.
My cat knows more of my secrets than anybody on the planet.
Right?
And it's so interesting because they are so empathic. They know, your puppy will come lick your tears away. Your cat will sit on your lap and purr you into health. There's just so much these sentient beings bring to us.
They do. They really, truly do.
You know?
Well, you must be psychic because that was my last question, or the question I had after that was, I was telling people how many years have you been coordinating the Children's Week?
I'm going into 21.
21 years, and that's what I was wanting. The question was, why was it so important to you? And you clearly answered that, and I love that.
Children have their gifts, and this is a beautiful way that they can retain their gifts and not let the world come in between. You see, there hasn't been a place where parents could take their children, who could understand spirit. These kids have taught me so much about love. The stories. We had this one little girl named Rachel, and she was brilliant. And during the children's service, she went to another child She described this child's mother who had just died in a car accident a month before.
Wow.
And said to her, your mother's here. She loves you. She wants you to know she's with you and tells you not to be mean. Okay?
That's
So,
great.
anger is an aspect of grief. So the next night at the children's talent show, that grieving child came up, ran up to me and said, "Give me a hug."
I love that.
Yeah, she's one of our alumni.
That's beautiful. And the healing that they do too is just beautiful.
Amazing, amazing, amazing.
Well,
But,
this question I like to end with, so what is one of the most important things you feel that you have learned on your spiritual journey?
that we're all one,
Mm,
and that honoring, respecting, loving is very important. Now, there are difficult people on this planet, and there are difficult parts that I find inside myself at times. So, by understanding that they are here, I can love my difficult parts. I look at terrorists and I look at myself and say, what terrorizes me? I look at a lot of things and say, maybe I don't like this sort of communication or that. And I become very much aware of what I'm saying. But most of all, we are one. And if something comes into your life for whatever reason, we look at the mirror of it and we ask ourselves, what part of me is that? That's, I think, the most important part I've learned. And there's lots of good stuff too, because those kids have taught me how curiosity and humility and fun is so important, that we're one with that. And that, because I do believe that we're here to consciously create success and have fun.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. And a lovely way to end our show this evening. You have your Facebook page and your Instagram for people to
Yes,
contact?
patriciabell.net.
Mhm.
And the Instagram is, well, it's Star Whisperer on Instagram. Yeah.
Okay, and they can follow you, and then yeah, you got your website. You already put that out there. Anything coming up?
Oh gosh, there's all kinds of stuff coming up. Yes, on January I believe it's the 16th, I will be teaching the Chinese Year of the Snake. Oh my gosh. Yes, it's in such a transformative, intuitive year. And that's very exciting. And that's going to be on Lily Dale's website. And of course, there is the Astrology Cafe for Lily Dale, which is on Thursday. And
That's you and Cassandra, right?
pardon?
Is that you
Yes.
and Cassandra? Yeah.
Yeah.
Power.
So, it's great. You can come on, you can bring your astrology chart, we can talk astrology. And, but the year of the snake is something that I do on my own because of my Chinese medicine background and all this other feng shui stuff that I have.
Well, Patricia, you've been lovely. Thank you so very much for being here this evening. Thank you all for joining us. This is the official Lilydale Assembly Facebook page. They've been posting a lot of stuff all day of the upcoming workshops they got coming up for the 2025 season. So
Yeah.
I know. Whew. Visit the page often to find out everything that's going on in Lilydale. My page, Wellness with Nancy Lombardo, my Instagram, nancy.k.lombardo. Thank you all for being here. Thank you again, Patricia. It was a lovely interview. My name is Nancy Lombardo. I am protecting and serving your well-being. Good evening, everybody. Thank you.